This is an open meeting of the Library Planning and Building Committee. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's orders suspend the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting, which we have done with our posting. For this meeting, the library PBC is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. So our first item is the minutes. Did everyone get a chance? Oh, John, can you hear us? I see that John joined us.
Yes.
Okay, how you doing, John?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good.
I'm trying to get my iPad to work, so I'm on my phone.
Okay, no issues. Did everyone get a chance to review the meeting minutes and make any corrections as required, or if there are any? Yep. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. John, is that your phone number that we see?
It should say.
Oh, it's Beth.
It should be my name.
No, I see your name and then I see a phone number, but that phone number is Beth. So Beth, can I hear you through the phone?
Okay.
Or do I have to unmute you? No, you control the whole meeting. I don't know why this is happening.
So my onboard mic for my computer is not working. I don't know now if it will record the sound. So so I'm
okay.
Can I just vote by raise a hand instead of roll call? Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to give a yay or a nay like Caesar. Okay. All right. So for the approval of the meeting minutes, Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
And Julie is aye. So it's passed. All right, so first we have bills to review and approve.
Our favorite thing.
Yeah.
All right, there are a few of the straightforward variety. There's one for DRA that sort of involves one of their proposals, but we'll just go through these and we can talk about them. So the one for Colliers is for March. Again, they're our commissioning agent. This is for $464.40. I think somebody had asked last time, they had a line item in there for phone charge or something like that. And sure enough, it's just what we thought. It's just a piece of their, his monthly phone bill for his company cell phone just gets split up across all the projects. So that's what that is.
So I make a motion to pay the bill to Colliers for $464.40.
Do I hear a second?
Doug, second.
Doug. Okay. So for vote on approval, Beth? Aye. Okay. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Julie, aye.
Okay, thanks. Next one is for DA Sullivan for March. This is for $7,425 for our OPM.
I make a motion, we pay DA Sullivan for March 2021 for $7,425.
Second.
Okay. Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John? Oh, we can see you now, John.
Yeah, I got my no for it, but my iPad.
Okay. And Julie, aye.
Okay, next
All right,
up
so
is DRA's March invoice for $5,580. This is for their regular invoice for the project.
I make a motion, we pay DRA $5,580 for March.
I had a question. So what was the previous one then? I thought you said, Andy, that was March. DRA.
Yeah, it was the previous one was actually February. It arrived in March, so I tagged it incorrectly as being March.
Okay.
If you look at the date range on the previous invoice, it was actually for February.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for noticing that.
No worries. I'm seeing the two statements out here. One says March.
Yep.
Yeah. And I second whatever Lisa said.
Thank you. All right, Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Julie, aye.
Okay. I'm going to hold on the other DRA one for a moment. We have one for the Grafton Water District for $138.08. This is kind of an odd one because we haven't had one of these before. Beth, I don't know if you've been getting them or not. Grafton Water District. So I guess we haven't been using water for a while, but so we did get a bill. You know, I guess we could make the argument that the general contractor should be paying this bill. So if that's what you guys want to do, I can certainly kick it back to them because it is under their care right now.
Do they kick it back to us then afterwards?
Oh yeah, I mean, we end up paying for it anyways.
Yeah.
I say we pay for it without their markup.
Yes, I think that's great. So I make a motion that we pay Grafton Water District $138.08.
Second.
Okay, Beth?
Wait, I have a
Aye.
question.
Oh, go ahead. Yes, John.
I'm assuming this is because the water is connected and they are using water.
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Oh,
Okay. All right. Beth was aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Julie is aye.
The next one I have is for National Grid, and I said I was going to provide more detail. This is 4 different accounts, all saying in one form or another that they're for streetlights. And most of these have been addressed to the Grafton Library trustees. There are 4 different ones that seems to be some overlap between them all. I've gone back and forth now many times with NGrid, and we've got these. We're down to these last 4. I've told them we'll pay the bills, but we're closing them because these are not actually for streetlights. I know, believe me. These are not actually for streetlights. These are for lights that are on poles that shine on the site, which we have not asked for, we don't need, we don't want. So I've directed them to stop, to cut them off. So this should be the last time we as the library have to pay these bills.
I'm going to make a motion, but then I have a question too. So I make a motion that we pay National Grid $691.02.
Second that.
So my question is this like stuff we get reimbursed for? Or is this just utility? Like, is this part of the half? No, okay.
It's just utility, yeah. This is a funny one. I mean, there's a bigger effort across the town right now to understand what all the utility bills are that all the different departments are getting. So and NGrid, I think, is if the library is any indication of what goes on in the rest of town, and it might be, there's some cleaning up that needs to happen, because this is sort of a weird invoice that we get. I mean, when we replaced a pole on Upton Street, they put a new pole in and they put a new light on it as well. That was shining on the site, not on the street. We didn't ask for that. So like, I don't really know who makes those decisions or why that happens, but we need to, I think as a town, we need to pay attention to it and tighten it up. And that sounds like that's what's happening anyways at the municipal level.
Did the existing library rely on those lights for nighttime lighting safety? Yeah, Beth?
Right.
Okay. So, but the new one doesn't need that, so you can get rid of them.
We have new lights.
Right.
It's a great business model, right? Just put something up, bill them
exactly.
until somebody catches you.
Right.
It's probably been going on for years.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. All right. So
Okay.
So that's the story behind that. And if anybody would like to see the 4 different account numbers and the amounts, I'd be happy to forward that email around to you all.
Any further discussion?
Just one more question. What's the time period for the $600 bill? Is this many months or 1 month?
No, it's many. It's across 4 different accounts, and it's for many months. So I've been trying to go back and forth with these guys for a little bit to clean this up.
Okay.
All right. So Beth? Aye. Doug? Aye. Okay. Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Julie is aye.
Okay. So we still have DRA's landscaping invoice to talk about, and we've got CTA's requisition, which includes a change order that I did not send around, but I can. So would you guys like to discuss DRA's proposals first? We can't really vote on their invoice until we've sort of accepted their proposal, if we're going to do that.
Yes. Smaller is better. Do the smaller one first.
Yeah, and can you point us to the right document name?
I can certainly try that. So let's see, the landscaping proposal.
The AIA G801.
Yeah, additional services number 004. Donor landscaping. So this is pretty straightforward. I mean, we talked about this one last month. This is basically for Berkshire Design Group to, under the control of DRA, to do conceptual landscaping design, which they've done, or they have been doing. It's actually a little bit more than conceptual design. We've actually gone into schematic design of ways too through this fee. So this is for work that that Berkshire has done and is doing right now.
Didn't we pay a bill like this last month, or is this new work?
No, we talked about it, but we
talked
didn't do
about it.
Okay.
Do they break down the costs, like how many hours, anything, or is it just they just sent us a bill for $9,300?
Let me see if I have it in front of me.
I'm just curious, are they charging $100 an hour or $200 an hour, and this is just an hourly rate?
It's just a lump. This is just a lump sum fee, Doug. So they estimate how much time they think they're going to spend, and they know what their hourly rates are, and so that's kind of how they come up with a lump fee.
And do they consider all of that already delivered, or is this including some other work they're still doing?
This I think represents work that's actually already been done. The initial work by Berkshire Design to give us the 8 or 10 different options, of which we are ultimately pursuing 6 or 7. And then there'll be another one for final design for those ones that were approved. This is just the initial one, which we talked about and probably could have or should have approved last month, because that's when the work was actually ongoing.
And sorry, one more question. They talk about the donor funded landscaping, but are pieces of this just the standard landscaping also?
In a very fine, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Not unless they're impacted by the donor landscaping. We're not revising any of the existing landscaping that's already in part of the project, unless it's a result of the donor landscaping changes. Yeah. And to address the question of rates, it's just our standard hourly rates.
But, oh, I'm sorry. So this is going to you, or is it because you've been charged by this other landscape architect?
It involves both of us. There's work done by both DRA and BDG, Berkshire Design Group, in concert to address the requested changes for the donor landscaping.
Well, the additional services, the contract with the town is through DRA. So, and they've in turn hired Berkshire Design, just like a structural engineer, electrical engineer, they're another consultant. So the work is being done, the heavy lifting by Berkshire Design in coordination with DRA to do all the big picture, coordination and so forth.
I mean, it did include the cost estimator as well.
Right.
So is this in addition to the $9,300, or is this part of the $9,300?
The bill tonight for 1860 is part of.
And is this because of the donor project piece? It's all okay.
Yep.
Do we vote on this, or does the is it the Friends who, like, is somebody else paying this?
Well, we're paying it right now, but there are donor funds that are going to be coming back to the project that are going to end up paying for it.
So how does that all work? Yeah, this isn't the first time, right, Andy? How does that work?
So it's pretty straightforward, actually. So like the grant that we got from the MBLC, we received that money. The accountants put that in a separate account. It's under the library project, but it's got a separate account number. And every month when I submit the invoice for CTA, I split out what portion of that was coming from the grant and what portion of that was coming from the borrowed money. So we can always track to see what money is coming from where, especially if it's, like the MBLC had some restrictions on what you can spend their money on, right? So this would be the same thing. I would specifically carve out, the additional donor landscaping items from the monthly requisition from CTA, so that we could see that the money that was donated did in fact get spent on the correct items.
So I'm going to vote for it because sure, why not? It's not our money, but I feel funny voting for something. I mean, Doug, how do you feel about representing them? Like, is this what you had expected, or like, should they vote on paying this?
Well, I haven't thought through the details yet, because this is the first time I've seen that. Well, I saw the 9,300 last week, but I wasn't clear that was all donor funded. Mm-hmm. So it does seem a little high for just there's only 3 projects or so that are kind of beyond the scope. 3 big ones, right? There's the gardens and stuff, but I'm not really sure who would vote on it, right? Because I guess if it's going to come out of the building project account to start with and then get reimbursed by the by the capital campaign. I mean, we've discussed this at the capital campaign and have agreed that we're going to be paying for this.
Yeah, I think ultimately it should be by this committee, because the funds are coming from different sources, but they're all coming out of the building committee. So whether they're coming from the MBLC, from the town, or the Friends, the end or starting point is the same. And to your point, Doug, about the 3 or 4 items that we're pursuing, this represented 10 or 12, bigger items.
That's true.
That we vetted.
We were considering.
Exactly. So.
And I know there were multiple designs,
right,
variations of all those different projects. That's true.
Right.
All right, so I'll make a motion as long as Doug feels comfortable with it. So I'll make a motion that we pay DRA for February landscaping in the amount of $1,860.
I have a question. When we, and Andy, you can probably help out here. So I'm looking, going back to your report. Overall difference is just about 77,000. So are all these things factored in? All these payments, are we tipping over at this point of time?
So you're getting ahead of ourselves here, Prabhu, but that's okay. Yeah, so I think we're gonna talk about that part when we get to the financial report, and Doug is gonna, I think give us an update on some of the funding that's coming from outside, so that it all makes sense. Because I haven't folded that part into my report yet, but that is the next thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to add a line item for external funds so that we can see what the new total looks like.
Okay. And I know that it was going to come in subsequently, but where I'm hesitating and going ahead and approving is, let's say we approve for $250,000, and then we see that, oops, we only had $75,000 in the bank. We just approved it. Can we unapprove it? Or should we first look at the overall financial health and then come back to talking about the bills and say that, okay, this is all we have. If there are services which are already rendered, obviously we got to stick with the commitment and pay for those. But if there are proposals coming in for services in the future, that's how I think about it. So I don't know if others have a different perspective about it.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I think so it's a funny little thing, right? Because we need to do some design work before we can do that actual construction. The design work doesn't really move the needle in terms of cost all that much. So the design work needs to happen, even if whether we do all of that design or part of that design. But we're only going to do the amount of the design that we can afford, which would include the design work. So we always have the ability to sort of cap the stuff that is out of, if something happened to be out of our budget or beyond our budget, we still have the ability to not do that, not execute that part of the construction work. But the design piece of this comes first, so we kind of need to do it. And again, we've got some serious commitments from outside funding. So like right now, I'm comfortable in terms of what I've seen and what I know. But I understand what you're saying. We don't want to spend things for the future if we know that we can't get there.
Okay. My last request is then, can we first prioritize the bills for the work that is already done, then get to the overall health, and then probably, as you mentioned, Doug can give what are the additional sum of money that we are getting, and then we can talk about the proposal, not the design proposal. Yes, the future potential expenses.
Yeah. This 1860 is work that's been already completed, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We've basically completed all of the work that was in that $9,300 proposal.
Right.
And this is what we've billed you for to date.
It's a good, probably it's a good point, because I agree with you. I'd like to sort of separate out the main project from the additional work. So yeah, I think I'll think about how to make this flow a little bit better for our next meeting, because I think it's a really good suggestion to figure out how to split this up a little bit better.
If Lisa,
do you need to vote to approve the proposal request first and vote to approve the invoice?
Yes.
Oh, we do? I think we typically like to pay our bills that we've already, and then, because I might not vote for the proposal maybe, but I'd vote to pay this bill for services rendered.
So, but the bill is coming from
for the services that have been rendered.
Yeah, the invoice comes from the proposal. So I think committee needs to approve the proposal and then subsequently authorize, payment on the invoice that's been processed so far.
So should I withdraw my motion?
Or just table it and then somebody put a motion in front of that to approve the proposal for additional services.
I'm trying to find the proposal for additional services, what's the name of that file?
Grafton Library AIA G801, additional services number 004, donor landscaping.
So that's for the total of 19,654. Did I pull up the right one or did I pull up the wrong one?
It's the wrong one.
I'm on my phone, so it's really hard to find them. They're really small.
It starts out Grafton Library AIA G801.
There are two of those though.
Yeah, that's the one I pulled up.
The other one.
That's what I'm saying. I can't. Maybe it's the Grafton Library too. No. Additional fee request, maybe.
I only see one in the email from last Friday, but
I'm looking at the one that Mary had forwarded to all of us.
Oh.
That's a different one.
oh,
That's a different one.
And that is why.
yeah, it's Friday. It was done by Friday by Andy. Well, if we need to do this one first, then I'll make a motion. Did we already table the other one?
Yes, we tabled the other one.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the proposal for donor-funded landscaping architectural fees for $9,300.
Is someone going to second it? Prabhu.
We've
Not on mute.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm here.
Do you have questions or were you seconding?
No, I was seconding it. I was seconding
okay.
it. I said, I trust these folks. I'm seconding whatever they're saying because the person.
Okay. So Beth, I, Doug.
Doug, aye.
Prabhu.
Aye.
Aye. Lisa.
This is all being paid by the donor money, correct? All right, then yes, aye.
John.
Aye.
And Julie, aye.
Okay. So that would mean that now we could vote on the invoice from DRA for February for the landscaping scope, which was for $1,860, which comes out of that proposal we just voted on.
And we have a motion. I think we can keep the motion in the second, right? And just vote.
Okay. All right. I'll do the roll call. Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Julie, aye. So that's passed.
All right, we've got two more bills. One of them I just sent around because I thought I had it in here and I didn't. It's for a change order that is actually included in the requisition. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to be sly and have you vote on the requisition that includes the change order without knowing that it's in there. We had this change order number 18 consists of 6 items. There was a water heater revision that was due to some plumbing discussions out on the site. There was additional tel data labor that happened for the electricians. We had a deduct that came back to us. So we had $597.63 that's coming back to us for some millwork revisions. We've got some changes to ductwork and sprinkler heads from an ASI that the design team put out. We have an add of $3,763.75 for a fire antenna. So it's part of our fire alarm system, but we have learned across the town that we need to have an external fire antenna on every building for them to work correctly. So that's what that one's for. And then we have another PCO that was additional duress buttons. So Beth, upon looking at the layout and quantity of duress buttons within the building, realized that she needed a few more, which I think is always a good thing So that was an additional $1,302.16. The total for these 5 pluses and 1 subtraction is $16,796.95 for change order number 18.
So I make a motion to approve change order number 18 in the amount of $16,796.95.
Second.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm not sure why these kind of things, why we're finding out about them now, like a water heater revision. What does that mean? I mean, I'm not nickel and diming it, but it's $16,000 and we're running out of money and everybody's wanting more all of a sudden.
No, this is pretty routine stuff, John. So the plumbing engineer came through and did an inspection of the building. They noticed some things that they thought needed to be changed that weren't quite code compliant. I think that's the origin of this one, Mark or Ron, tell me if I'm wrong. And so there was some remedial work that had to be done. Again, it's pretty minor, but still something that happens as that's part of the review. That's why we have people come through and do inspections and do reports to make sure that everything is actually getting installed correctly.
So initially, who was in charge of making sure all these things were to code?
Well, everybody is really. The real answer is everything is designed to code and everything gets reviewed by everybody on paper and out in the field. So there's a whole bunch of people that are tasked with looking at this stuff.
It's disappointing to me that we're paying for a lot of mistakes or omissions, whether they're normal or routine, and then getting extra billed for it. And it's disappointing to me. It's one thing to say we need additional duress buttons. I get it, that for whatever reason, that came up in discussions and Beth said we need more for whatever reason. But shouldn't the building inspector said initially, you need a fire antenna, or the fire department, shouldn't they have said that 2 years ago?
2 years ago, I don't think they knew it. We added one at the DPW because we found out that wasn't working correctly and that's what it needed. And then I went backwards and looked and found that they had done that at the fire station itself to add an external antenna. So that's when I flagged it as something that looked like it was lacking, that needed to be done in order to get the right functionality.
Can you, on that same note though, can you provide a little details on the changes to ducts and sprinkler heads? Was that just like rerouting something, or do you know the $7,000 one?
Ron or Ken, do you guys remember what ASI 19 was?
I could look it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same.
And that's half of the increase, right? In one,
right,
almost one line item.
Well, and I would think ductwork and sprinkler heads would have been well laid out by the design team.
Yep, and in fact, we do coordination ahead of time to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen very much, but it's still, as it turns out, conditions in the field are sometimes different than they are on paper. Occasionally people do make mistakes.
For this particular ASI, it says relocating sprinkler line due to conflict with ductwork, modify soffit at lobby to accommodate 2 16x16 ducts, add 2 sprinkler heads due to larger soffit. Basically, there was a collision of parts in the field. The ductwork and the sprinklers collided, so we had to move them.
And just, I mean, there are a fair amount of these things that happen on a weekly basis that we avoid, right? So that we either We figure it out in the field. Nobody has to do anything. There's no extra costs. We find solutions to this stuff all the time. And that's despite the fact that we have tried to coordinate ahead of time. But it is true that some things just end up being a different size. You get a slightly different model number or something like that happens. And now something's 2 inches different than it was supposed to be. And now it's going to be below a ceiling. So we have to move some things around. So some of the stuff is, avoidable, and we avoid it prior to starting construction. Some of it we take care of during construction, and there's no impact in terms of cost or schedule or quality or anything else. And then there are a few that still bubble up, like this one, that where there was some conflicts and some things that didn't quite fit right that had to be addressed by moving some things that had already been installed.
But those cases where you said they fix them in the field without additional costs, I mean, someone's absorbing that, right? Whether it's time or materials.
So what happens, especially with these MEP related things, is before any work begins, they do a coordination drawing and they look for what's called clash detection, which is just what it sounds like. They try to find, they layer all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, ductwork, everything on top of each other, and they do a 3D analysis and see if anything's running into each other. And if it is, they raise their hand. So this is before any work is done. They bring it to the design team's attention, and a rework is done. So that's kind of phase A. Phase B is, like Andy said, that now they're out in the field 6 months later and they're doing the work. And somebody may see an issue that they're not comfortable with, and they raise their hand and they're able to move it over and move it up or down without affecting anything, again, before the work is done. And then some other issues are like this one, where somebody raises their hand in the field. The solution is something where we have to actually add additional sprinkler heads to resolve the issue. And the argument would be, well, in the original bid set of documents, if we added 2 sprinkler heads back then, you would have had to pay for them then. Now you're paying for them now. It's an issue to reach code compliance. You have to add these sprinkler heads or enlarge in the duct or move something over. And so this is that type of thing. It doesn't just happen because nobody's paying attention. The infrequency of things like this happens because a lot of people are paying attention.
Yeah. The other thing to consider is there on a lot of these, there's multiple trades involved that are not necessarily working simultaneously. So for example, the ductwork might go in first, and that subcontractor moves on to another part of the building. The sprinkler person comes in behind them and sees a conflict that didn't get picked up, or that it had the duct, the person installing the duct was not aware that it was going to be a conflict, the sprinkler, so they went ahead with their work.
Yeah. So we don't need a motion to approve this one, right? Because you said it's in the larger requisition, or do we need a motion for this change order 18?
Yeah, no, it's good to approve change orders separately.
Okay. I make a motion to accept change order 18.
Okay. I think we already made that motion. Mm-hmm.
I didn't remember that we had that motion. All right. So Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
No.
No? Okay. Julie is aye. So it's passed.
All right. Next we have CTA's requisition number 17 for March in the amount of $696,953.22. Again, this gets reviewed and scrubbed pretty carefully by Mark, by Ron, and Ken, by myself. This is a pretty straightforward one in terms of where we are with the project and what's been completed.
I'm sorry, I was taking notes. Is this the requisition number 17?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
yeah.
So I make a motion that we approve CTA's rec number 17 in the amount of $696,953.22.
Second.
Hey, Beth? Aye. Doug,
Aye.
Prabhu,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Julie, aye.
Okay. Great. That's really it for invoices. We have a couple more proposals from DRA to talk about and one from Weston and Sampson. So Ken and Ron, why don't you go? You guys can go next.
Okay. So I had sent out, which I understand everybody received, trying to find it now, a summary of these two change orders. The first one was for the contaminated soils. And this is the time that we spent primarily in meetings, phone calls, and basically investigating things. So I had given you the breakdown based upon days and the type of what those hours or how those hours were spent for what items. You know, if you have any questions relative to that listing.
And I just have one. Can you just clarify what the amount is? Because I think I had it wrong in my email that I sent out earlier on Friday to the committee.
Oh, it was 19. Oh, sorry, 49.50. Let me just double check. Hang on.
Yeah.
Well, the one he sent said 53.32.
Yeah, that's higher than it actually is.
Yeah, that was the wrong one. That was an old one.
Okay.
That's why I was asking for the clarification, because I'm pretty sure the new one is lower.
So is this a bill or is this something like we're just being proposed to do? We've already done it, right?
This is an amendment to the contract for additional services.
This is similar to additional services for the landscaping one that we just approved. This is for the contaminated soils, again, for work that's already been done, but formally you'd have to approve it to add it to their contract. And then they could bill against it.
Okay, just please bear with me. Here we go. Number 5.
My question is, if this was all done a year ago, why is it now that you're finally deciding to bill for it?
I'm sorry, John, what did you say at the beginning?
If this work was done a year ago, why are you now deciding to propose a change order a year later?
Well, I acknowledge that in the letter that it should have been invoiced some time ago for the work. You know, we did do the work, and it's, you know, certainly it would have been nice to have given you a bill in whenever the last hour's expenditure in April of last year. So yeah, I don't have a good answer for you on that one. The amount is $4,975.
I feel like I should be making a motion, but I'm really struggling with it. It's a bill, right? Like we have to pay it.
Again, this is an additional services proposal. So no invoices, no bills have been submitted yet because the proposal needs to be approved first, and then they'll submit an invoice against it.
But in theory, we're voting to give ourselves a bill.
Correct.
Yeah.
For work that's been done a year ago.
Correct.
All right, so I guess I'm going to make, for the fun of it, I'm going to make a motion to pay or add this to the proposal of $4,975.
I'll second that again for the fun of it, like Lisa said.
Yeah.
It's the same struggle. And Andy, you got to help me out here. I still feel that the ATM is empty. Seem to be sliding the card again in and out, in and out. I don't know where are we going to land with this. But operationally, like Lisa said, the work is done. We are approving the proposal to get ourselves a bill. So I second that.
Probably if it makes you feel any better, I did show the worst case scenario, and I included this in this month's cost report. So I always like to do the worst case situation. So I put these in as if they were being approved, and if something was not approved, then I can always back them out.
Okay, thank you.
Were you surprised by this, Andy?
Well, I think the comment that was made originally was correct. I mean, I had asked quite a while ago when the project got extended, I asked if there was any additional fees that were going to be coming out. That's the next one we're going to talk about. But yeah, I would have thought that we would have had an invoice on this on a more timely basis.
Can we expect any further invoices from a year ago? Is there a statutory limit that, okay, after 10 months?
No.
No for no limit or no for?
No, this was, go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just going to say that this is, quite honestly, it slipped through the cracks. And,
it's just an exception. Okay.
No, so for last year, there are no other additional service requests for last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, during that period of last year, those months that we paid DRA and stuff like that, were there any additional charges then, or have they just been billing us the monthly cost that was in the original proposal?
We can't bill you anything that hasn't been approved.
So the bills we've seen from DRA so far, minus the architecture one, was predicted a year ago or whatever. Okay.
Correct.
Because I mean, what's that?
There was nothing new in any of the billings invoices that have been approved to date.
Because I mean, I can imagine all the extra work for that remediation. I mean, certainly we spent a lot more money doing the physical removal. There had to be a fair amount of time dealing with different aspects. So in that case, I don't see I mean, obviously it's a year later. It would have been nice to have it a year ago, but it seems like those charges we would have been charged regardless, a year ago or now. I think the biggest issue is just that it's a year late.
Okay. We ready for a roll call? Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
You look like you're having fun.
Yeah.
John? John?
No.
Okay, and Julie is aye. So that's passed.
Okay. Now the next one.
Sorry, my cat is freaking out in the background. I don't know if you guys hear her meowing constantly.
I'll get back to the files here. So the next one is for it's the same one. Is for additional construction administration services. And basically, when we started with construction administration, CTA came up with a schedule where they were going to be complete by January 11th, 2021, which is actually 5 months after the termination date in our contract. But because, you know, that was the time period that they requested, we decided that we should be able to go along with not charging any additional monies. But because of the delay in construction, we're now looking at an additional 5 months. I think it's 5 months of work. So effectively, from the date of our contract saying that our project is up on August 1st, we've had 10 months of unplanned, when we put together our fee and signed the contract, there's 10 months of additional time that we would have to absorb, and we're prepared to absorb 5,000 of that to the original completion date, but we believe that we're due 5 months of additional services. And I'd like to say that things have slowed down, but the construction administration hasn't slowed down on this project. It's still very much alive and well. But so that's the reason for this change. When we, for the period of construction through January 11th, we took the fee and divided it up so there would be equal payments. And so some months have been real heavy duty as far as administration work. Other months have been lighter, but it levels out over the whole period. So the request is for $19,654 per month until substantial completion. So if they finish a little earlier, then we'd make an adjustment to that particular month.
So can I ask some questions, or do you need me to make a motion first, Julie?
We need to talk about it.
Yeah, that's, I don't want to make a motion until we talk. So I've got a whole bunch of questions. So what is, could you help me understand the delay, the reason for the delay again? Was it the contamination?
Contamination, yeah.
We didn't have a 5-month delay from the contamination.
Yeah, that's why that I'm struggling.
The general contractor, in his first submission of schedule, actually in his contract, it was said that he would be complete by January 11th. So that's the date that we planned on providing construction administration services. So the additional 5 months is associated with the contractor claimed delays, which are primarily contaminated soils.
I thought at all our meetings,
it's the same 5-month period.
Slowing us down, that we were on schedule, everything was on track. So all of a sudden now we're getting all these bills, or we're being told, oh, there was a 5-month delay, but this is the first.
John, look at the contract with the JC. They were going to be complete by January 11th. Substantial.
I don't have a contract in front of me.
No, but I'm just saying that was the date of completion. And the date of completion now is June 9th, at least estimated completion. Now, you know, they are moving pretty quickly, and it's conceivable that they might be finished before the June 9th for substantial completion. But it's not a delay that DRA caused. It's a delay that the contractor has, you know.
Again, you're late to the dance on this, and I don't understand. You're asking for money that you supposedly should have been finished in January. I would think in November you would have realized.
John.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Let me interrupt for 1 second. The contractor, the GC, extended their contract to July. They submitted and were awarded additional services for that time period, as was Andy.
At what point did that happen?
We're asking for the same additional service because we're still working. We're still working until that date. And right now we're working unpaid.
You're playing catch up. We had to drag you to get the stuff done for the interiors. I'm sorry. This is the way I see it.
Catch up. I'm sorry. I apologize. No, we're not playing
John,
catch up.
Why wasn't this bill submitted? Why wasn't this bill submitted in November when you knew this was going to happen? Why?
We tried to make our fee stretch. We can only stretch it so much. And we've received support from Andy and Mark in submitting this proposal.
Well, I agree. I mean, November.
From January.
But it's out of our control, John. We have no control over when the contract is going to be complete. I mean, if we look at it from the standpoint of we should have been done in January, well, you know, if we were done in January, we would have stopped work. And so the next 5 months, there would be effectively no architect on the project. We're working to the contractor's schedule. That's not a schedule that we create.
Sorry, just to clarify, Andy, and Mark, so the CTA administrative fees, they came to us and asked for another 5 months of those fees that we approved in a previous meeting?
They did. When the contaminated soils change order, there were a couple of them, but when combined, when the contaminated soils change orders were approved, at that time, it was understood that it was going to take, say, 5 months to complete that work, start to finish. So CTA said, we're going to be late by 5 months because of this, so we're going to need 5 additional months of general conditions. So that was reviewed, vetted, and then ultimately approved. And then you went through the same process with Andy. Now Andy said, well, now I'm going to be here an extra 5 months. And so you approved that as well. So this is the same discussion this time with DRA, albeit it's a later discussion, but it's the same discussion.
Yep. And presumably this is what contingency fees typically would account for. I mean, one of the pieces, is that what contingency is written in for, or is that mainly price changes in, you know, goods?
No, I mean, certainly this is one of this job was unique because of the scope and the depth of the contaminated soils issue. And it didn't just push the project 5 weeks, you know, late. It was 5 months, and then it cost a lot of money during that 5 months. So, but the ancillary effects of that are that if the project's going long by 5 months because of nobody's fault, because of underground unforeseen conditions, and then you need the administrative effort to oversee that additional 5 months, then that's what this is about.
I thought when they had to do the soil work that CTC, whatever the right name is, said, you know, that's okay. And there wasn't a problem. So it was a quiet time for them. So they basically weren't there. Is my memory wrong?
Yeah, they asked for 5 additional months of general conditions because that meant their superintendent, who was there every day, was now going to be there every day for 5 more months. So there's a cost that comes with that. Even though the activity on the site was slow, it was just the contaminated soils, there was still oversight by the GC, which meant their project manager was checking in, you know, and so forth. And so it wasn't like everybody just went away for 5 months while the soils was, that work was completed. Andy had to be there every day. CTA was there every day, and DRA had to oversee the whole process. So this is, I mean, honestly, this is a discussion we should have had when CTA submitted and you reviewed Andy's additional time, and that's what makes this a more difficult discussion. The validity of the discussion, I think. What's that?
When was that they submitted all this? CTA.
I don't know what the date of that change is. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Andy. I mean, it was roughly a year ago.
A year ago.
Yeah, when the soils.
I see a pattern here, and this is why I'm angry. There's no excuse for this.
We explained that we tried to make our fees stretch.
Then you should have explained it to all of us, not just to a handful of people.
We wrote off 5 months of work that we've done.
Well, you wrote it off because you scratched your feet.
10 months. We've written off 5 months of that we're not charging you for. We tried to make our fee stretch, and we're still working, and we're not playing catch up.
And there was also a lot of effort.
You had to rent the library, the substitute library longer. You delayed the project initially. It wasn't anybody else. It was you and your plans, and they weren't ready. We have had to crack the whip to get you guys to work. And that's frustrating. I'm tired of it. And that's
not
why
a
I'm
comment to make.
No, you did. We were working. We were not sitting around twiddling our thumbs. We were working, John. We're working damned hard to get the.
Then why didn't the plans get submitted on time? Why did we vacate the library back in May when you didn't start work until September? No answer.
Well, because I'm trying to figure out the schedule here. For
And Beth spoke to this last month as well. She was not happy. I guess I'm the only one that's going to speak up, and I will. I'm sorry. But I'm very disappointed that this is, everything is late, without a good reason.
Go ahead, Doug.
This is also sort of through Andy and Mark, but I would think that the administrative fees, especially for the architect, would be less in a delay situation than the original. I know they spread, you just took your total architectural fees, you divided it by the number of months. So you had kind of this even months, and some months you probably made money and some months you might've lost money, but over the year is what you decided for. But now that we're 5 months late, is there really that average amount of administrative costs? I mean, that whatever that was, 19,000 a month.
We're 10 months late, effectively.
But what I'm saying is this additional 5 months that you're billing, that you would like it to bill us for, does that represent on a typical project the average administrative costs for the architect, or does it go down to close to zero towards the end of a project? It's a question.
The end of the project is probably one of the highest times for hours, because we're doing all the punch list work, we're closing out the project, reviewing all the submittals for owner manuals. It's a very heavy time at the end of a project.
Okay, so you feel
nothing is slowed down on the project. I wish I could say we're towards the part, but nothing is slowed down.
Yeah, I mean, I would just comment that I'm not happy that I do agree that it would have been nice to see this even in January or February when we knew we were already going to be 5 months late. But I don't fault. I mean, it's not the architect's fault that this is 5 months past the CTA's contracted end date, right? I can see how you're going to base your fees on when the construction company says you're going to be done, and maybe some wiggle room at the end. But I mean, I can see why the architect wants to get paid for the additional months of work.
But why all of a sudden in April when this they knew in November, December, January, February, March? That's what makes me especially angry. But
Andy, when you did the overall numbers, do you have this accounted for in those numbers yet? That's there already?
Yep.
Yeah, so for me, it's a few things. I do remember at the beginning of the project, like John had mentioned, there were delays that I felt like we were just kind of in limbo, and that at least I didn't fully understand why we weren't moving along at the beginning of this process as quickly as I'd like. So I do agree with John on that piece of it. As far as this coming in, I agree with Doug. It's a bill, and it did go 5 months, and we agreed to pay everybody else those additional 5 months. I'm not sure I am comfortable with the $19,000. I understand how you got there, but there had to have been times across the process or the project when it wasn't as heavy, but I understand how you got to that number. But, and there is nothing you could do about the contaminated soil, but I do vaguely remember at the beginning of this project, there being some delays that did cost us some additional money because renting the space because of your firm. I do remember, I do remember that as well.
Well, we did discount 5 months of fee. The contract was extended by 10 months. We're asking for 5 months. And that's 10 months of actual work. We didn't stop working for 5 months. So we're basically asking half of what we could have asked for in consideration.
Ron, can you clarify when you say it was 10 months? I didn't join the
in our contract, it says that all the work will be complete by August 1st of 2020, which means that's basically the cutoff date for DRA's work on the project. However, we are prepared to extend that date of August 1st to the January 11th date so that we're not charging you for that additional 5 months. But we do feel, I mean, we have to charge you for the remaining 5 months.
So are you doing 5 months of work that was not originally planned? You're just spreading out the work that you're supposed to do it from 12 months to 22 months or whatever the original contract was.
The original contract was for August 1st of 2020 that we would be complete on the project.
And the same could have been, to follow your argument, the same could be said for CTA and for Andy.
Okay, well, they submitted theirs timely, so it was, we had to deal with it and we dealt with it. And yours is after the fact. It just, you know, I've said all I'm, this is.
We tried, again, we tried to make our fees extend. We found that we were doing as much work as before, and we simply couldn't be profitable.
But I don't see how you have 5 extra months of work
at a loss
to do the same project.
What's that?
I don't see how it takes 5 more months of work. It's whether you have a 12-month, your contract was basically to get the building built. Whether people work fast or slow, it's the same amount of work by you guys to do whatever drawings and plans.
No, it's not, John. It's time. The architect.
So you're spending $20,000 a month of people from your firm at the library right now. From January, you're spending 20. I don't know how much an hour that is, but that's quite a bit an hour for people to be working, to be overseeing stuff.
I mean, it's a huge team of people that are involved.
Well, I see 2.
John, but there's
John, there's more than.
Come on.
Okay, enough.
No.
I've made my point. Done. You know, go ahead, do whatever.
I mean, it's a huge team. It's not just the two of us.
I understand that, but I'm still, this is not what should have happened. Move the vote.
Will there be, I have one more question. Will there be any more additional bills like this from your firm that you can foresee if everything stays on track?
The only
If
thing
everything
you
stays
should be
on track.
Yeah, but what if, and this was, I was going to ask Andy and Mark, what if, June 9th goes to July 9th, so it's an extra month. Are we going to get an extra month from the architect, from CTA, from all the associated people?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I don't see that happening. I think we'll be done before early June, just because of the pace.
I mean, we were hoping that, we were looking pretty hard at CTA's schedule, seeing if there were ways that we could reduce it, and nothing worked. I mean, there was always some problem in trying to reduce the schedule back from June 9th. So yeah, I don't anticipate any other changes, and unless I don't even anticipate the schedule is going to drift anymore.
Now, okay, I just quickly, our normal bill that we get for DRA month to month is about how much? Andy, you probably have the number there. It's normally around 8,000, 9,000.
No, we've been stretching.
That's part of what, because we see that every month. That's what we vote on. But now it's $19,000 a month. That's
what you should be seeing. But we can't. We've been trying to stretch our money out because we need some income.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, we need some income, but it's.
Right. It's been in the $9,000 to $10,000, $8,000 to $10,000 range. Yeah.
Okay. And the reason that that's greatly reduced is because you've been trying to stretch the overall contract.
We've been trying to stretch out our fees.
Yeah, and I know they've mentioned that a few times in previous meetings.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, what do you think of this overall proposal then?
I think contractually it's sound. I think if there's an argument to be had, you might talk about the 19,000 versus the 8 to 10,000, something like that. But certainly, if the argument was sound for CTA to extend by 5 months or Andy to extend by 5 months, then the logic is truly the same for DRA. So I think before, when the invoice was brought up last month, the context was not there. And when I spoke to Ken, and he said, the pushback last month was, well, we started late. Why are they billing us for additional time and so forth? And then Ken said, well, we kind of gifted you 5 months. We acknowledged the late start, so we're not charging for that. We're charging from the new completion date to the actual completion date. And that's pushed us 5 months further, which I don't think you can argue contractually. The only thing, and I don't know if you want to argue or have a discussion about, would be the amount. But certainly, I think there's validity to the issue.
I mean,
CTA came to us and said, this is what we proposed before. This is being given to us after the fact. The water's over the bridge. We can't undo the last several months. So this isn't even fair for us to negotiate, because we don't have any leverage. It's like, we need the job finished. This should have been done back in November and December. And it would have been a totally different discussion.
Yeah, and if it was, John, we probably would have voted to pay it. I just don't know if we would have voted maybe for $20,000 a month, right? Like we might have voted for less. So for me, I feel all of your same frustrations. Don't get me wrong, right? Like I feel all of the same frustrations. I remember those first few months and being very frustrated. But I do think if this came up back when CTA brought it back months and months and months ago, and maybe that's some feedback for DRA that, you know, get your bills back in a timely manner, but there might've been reasons for that, COVID or whatever. But I do think $19,000, I don't understand where that's coming from when the bills have typically been $9,000. It doesn't feel like we're being gifted 5 months. It feels like we're being tacked on or doubled our monthly bill to make up for those 5 extra months. That's how I'm feeling.
And Andy, do you have the bills from like middle of last year or something like that?
Yeah, early last year.
I just looked at like May, August, and October, and they were, you know, $8,000 to $10,000. What
about like January, like early in the year before any of these issues?
Early in this year?
No,
of 2020.
Because I don't know how much you bill a month, bill an hour, but at, you know, $200 an hour, that's what, 100 hours of work in a month. So that's 50 hours a week. Sounds like a lot. Or no, it's 25 hours a week.
Yeah.
DRA's January 2020 invoice was for $19,654.04.
So it's literally 19,654 up until probably August 2020, and then it shifted over to the half to that next 5 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that, just for the fun of it again, that we, it doesn't feel very fun, that we allocate, because we haven't gotten a bill yet, but a maximum of $98,270 for the additional 10 months of work. Can I do that? Can I say a maximum? Because I'm hoping Andy and Mark and Ron and Ken go back and sharpen their pencils a little bit, but if it is that, it is that. But can I do that?
I don't see why not, but not to exceed.
Yeah, I don't see why not either.
All right, so I'm going to do DRA not to exceed $98,270.
Can I add to that before anyone seconds it? Can we, so who negotiates on our behalf? Andy, is it you and Mark? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I have never moved anything. So
the first time.
The first time, there's always the first time here. So here we go, Andy. Can Andy and Mark, can we have a motion that Andy and Mark renegotiate the 98,000 to 45,000?
To what? I'm sorry, I missed, like to half?
Up to 45, yeah, half. So stick with that same 8,000, 9,000 per month?
No, I don't think that's, I don't know.
No, that's why I'm saying it's a motion from the committee to OPM to go have this conversation, and you guys can take it offline, work through it, and come back and let us know.
Right? Yeah, unfortunately, we're then working without, you know, a real basis of what it should be. I mean, I think the first motion, it gives us an opportunity to negotiate an amount that Andy and Mark agree with. But if you start off at a halfway point, I don't think that's reasonable.
I mean, I want to make sure that that we pay for the hours that they're working extra, right? I mean, we want to be fair about that. So that's my only question is it really $19,654 worth of work per month?
Right.
So I like the motion where it's a maximum up to.
But Doug, what is the basis for the 19,000? That's why your point about being fair. It's to be fair to both DRA and to us. I don't know. I don't know if 19,000 is a fair sum. If it was 8,000 one month, 10,000 other month.
But it was, if I understand it correctly, it was 19,654 for the entire original term. So that's how much they spread it out across. It's like the electric plan or whatever. And the only reason it dropped down was because they wanted to stretch their current contract out another, double time.
Oh, I didn't follow that. How it was?
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, that's correct.
We tried to work with the original fee.
Right. Instead of running out of money in 5 months or running out of your bills and then actually getting zero for the next 5 months, you just cut your cost in half, your fees in half.
Okay.
So my only question is if 5 months of a project in delay are really the average amount of construction administrative costs, then yeah, we should be paying them 19,654. But if it's only 75% or 80% of a typical project, which I don't have any idea.
Okay, so even if I'm thinking out aloud here, guys. So for the 5 month extension till the 11th or 9th of April, whatever was the date, that becomes 3 months. So even if you agree to the 19,000, which was the average, for the remaining 2 months, there is still room for scope for negotiation, right? I don't know, do we still have the same amount of work for Ken and Ron? Would you guys need to spend the same amount of time and effort and the deliverables associated with that for the last 2 months when you're ramping down the project?
Yeah, as Ken mentioned before, actually the last 2 months are quite busy because you're trying to close the project out. So it's not just DRA, it's the whole consulting team. Everybody's more involved in those last 2 months than they might have been 2 months ago. But then I think there's a discussion to be had there if we went the not to exceed limit, because those 2 months, whether they happened in May or June of this year or December and January of last year, were still owed, by DRA and the consulting team. So the amount of effort isn't additional effort. It was owed always. It's that 5 months of extension. How much additional work was done during those 5 months? And so I think if Lisa's motioned for using that as a not to exceed limit, and then Andy and I talk with Ken and Ron and we try to work something out, and we have an interim building committee meeting or a follow-up and just try to kind of just hammer through this until we reach a resolution.
Because I do think Mark and Andy have a good idea of when, like, the contaminated soil was happening at the beginning of the project, the delays there. Like, I think they have a good idea of the value of that, whereas I don't, right? Like, I have no idea. They have the history of the bills there. By saying 45,000, we kind of limit everyone's ability to negotiate fairly.
You got to have some starting point. I don't even know how to come up with a number. So yeah, there you go. I am negotiating, starting off halfway. I don't know. I don't know if it's fair or not.
And remember, Andy's working for us, right? So he's working for the town.
Right. Let me finish my point, right? So right, my bigger concern is we are going to run out of money, right? And 77,000. Next month there might be something else that will happen, and then we won't have money. If we don't start having those conversations now and saying that what should we stop, what should we pull out, then what point of time should others, the select board and others, start getting involved that, guys, we need to go mobilize additional funds?
Prabhu, so additional funds are on their way. We still need to get to that part of the program with Doug, but yeah, once we get to the end of this, I think you'll feel better.
Okay.
How's that for a?
So
and I am seconding whatever Lisa moved.
Okay. With the not to exceed the 98,000, is that right?
It was $98,270.
Very good. All right, so let's have a roll call. Beth? Aye. Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
No.
John? No. Okay, and Doug?
Aye.
And Julie? Aye. So that is passed. Andy and Mark and Ken can all talk.
Yep. Right.
Thank you. Yep.
And as if that weren't enough fun. So we still have one more proposal. This one's from Weston and Sampson. So this is just a great night, everybody, because this one falls into a similar category, right? So this proposal, you know, Weston Sampson is our environmental, our engineer, right? So they've been doing all the DEP filings and soil testing and soil gas testing and groundwater monitoring and all that stuff. So their original proposal was small and then doubled, and then it just went up. Their latest proposal for $84,350 is a little troubling for both Mark and I, partially just because of I think the amount, to be really honest, I think the amount is legit. There's a ton of work that has happened. I mean, their scope, just like the contaminated site, just exploded. You know, as we uncovered more, they had a lot more to do. There was a lot more testing of soil that had to happen. So I actually think that the scope here is all legitimate. The problem that Mark and I both have with this one is, again, the timing. Some of this stuff is for work that they've already completed. So this thing, I mean, you know, Paul McKinley from Weston and Sampson has apologized a couple of times, but it still doesn't change the fact that he got this in really late to us for a bunch of stuff that's already been completed. So part of this is for work that they've already done. For instance, all the groundwater monitoring is done. All that stuff is completed. All the soil gas testing is done. And the rest of this is all for completion of the paperwork that's all open right now, right? So all the DEP stuff, all that state paperwork that is all open and needs to be closed in a certain time period is covered by this proposal. So again, I don't love the timing of this thing just because some of the work has already been completed, and I think they should have gotten this to us quite a while ago. The last proposal was in August, and it also includes some things that I think should have been included in their August proposal. They started some stuff and didn't really include the time to finish some of the things that they started, and that's been sort of included in here. So, you know, I'm recommending that we approve it, but I'm not happy about it. I've voiced this to Paul McKinley now several times, and he's just sort of said, yeah, sorry. I mean, you know, so again, legit scope, late, but it's all stuff that needs to get done. We need to be able to close out the state paperwork on this thing when we get to the end. And in fact, this is the maximum number. The total number is actually going to be less because we have had good news. So the quality of the water in the groundwater monitoring wells has been excellent. The soil gas came back excellent. You know, nothing left in the soil. So all the results of all this work have been really good, which means there's going to be a few less tests that have to happen. And so this number of 84,350 is actually going to be less than it is by how much I don't know. But yeah, so that's basically the overall version on this one. You know, overall, you look at their initial number and what their final number is, and it's a lot different than what they originally had proposed. But that's what happens when you uncover, you know, a couple of additional underground storage tanks and have to test, you know, 3 times as much material going off site as you thought you were going to have to.
And this one was tough. As Andy mentioned, there's some of the work they're just billing late, as we talked about. You know, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth when we were having this discussion about late billings. But some of the work references, as Andy mentioned, was, you know, back in August, we did steps 3 of 4, and we billed you for 3, but they knew at the time they needed to bill, you know, that step 4 was going to be required, but that step 4 wasn't in the proposal.
Right.
And now we're seeing it now. And so the timing and the administrative awkwardness of it, it's hard to justify.
Yeah, this one we really should have seen this one in, you know, December or January at the latest. That's because, like Mark was saying, step 3 of 4, step 4 happened in probably December or early January. So that really would have been the right time to have had this thing come out, and not, you know, this came out a few weeks ago, but still it's later than it should have been.
Right.
And if we would have known about these bills, we would have had to make an adjustment in the spending on the project. When there were change orders, we'd say, no, we can't afford that. No, we can't afford that. But now we can't do that. That's not fair to us. We're relying on experts and paying them top dollar. And I don't feel like that we're getting top dollar service. You know, it's how hard is it to put out a bill if somebody owes you $100 grand? I think if somebody owed me $100 grand, I'd be all over it.
Right. Yeah, I can't disagree with you, John. I think the
if you owed me $10, I'd be all over it.
I think the product that we've gotten has been very good, but I think this kind of thing is not, you know, it's not good. This is not the way that it's supposed to go.
So when we finish all this, do we get a report back to the state where we're dissatisfied or where there are problems, so other people don't have to learn this hard way, that we can say, this is, expect late bills? That's our experience. Is there an opportunity to do that?
Probably not for this, like for this consulting engineer, for instance. I don't think they really fall into a category.
They don't have references that they list, although maybe they just wouldn't list
They
us.
do. They do have references that they list, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So there are sort of informal ways to address some of that stuff, John. Yep.
Like,
I have 2 questions. One is all of this related to the decontamination, or was some of this we would have had to have done the monitoring regardless?
No, this is 100% related, tied back to all the DEP stuff. Yep, all the contamination.
And what was my second question? Oh, and this is actually probably as much for the DRA stuff as anything, but are there any COVID, right? This is, the delays were, not all of them were COVID, but some of them were COVID related. Is anything reimbursable from the state, either from the MBLC or other ways to get the COVID monies?
So we only had one COVID related bill from CTA for like $742 or something like that.
Okay.
And nothing else.
Okay.
At the time, I asked them, if we're going to be seeing more of this, let me know, because there was some discussion about, you know, state or federal funding for COVID related costs. But that was really the only bill that we got. And in fact, right now, CTA has a laborer there every day, wiping down, cleaning all the high touch surfaces in the building that they're just doing as part of their fee.
I had a question, Andy.
Yes.
Is this also, is the sum also rolled in the projected cost?
It is.
So we're barely scraping by at this point. Is that right, Andy? Like it's getting closer and closer.
It's getting very close to the end. However, we do have something else that's going to help us out.
Okay.
Is this amount in line with what you would have expected? Like as far as like the amount per hour or however they bill out?
Yeah, it seems expensive to me, but then when I poke at it and I pick it apart, I think it is right. I mean, there's probably a team of 6 different people working on this, plus there's lab time, plus there's testing, material testing that happens, plus machine time. They had to come out and do with a drill rig a couple of times and do some stuff. So yeah, this has all been, I am always like shocked a little bit when I see their bill, but then when I pick it apart, it does make sense. And I've looked at this one now, way too many times. And yeah, it's pricey, but I think it's realistic. I think it reflects what they've actually had to do.
I just don't want anybody to look at our contingency and go, oh, wait, they got a little bit of money left. Let's find a way to get it out of that.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But to Lisa, if they look at the contingency, they have to give us money. There is nothing out there.
No, that's what we should just keep saying, right? We should just keep saying there's none. I do think to whoever said it, like to their point, like the decisions that we made because of these late bills is like we would have made, I think, maybe different decisions further, you know, based on that, if we knew these, gosh, I mean, this is like almost $150,000 that we just voted on, right? Like,
well, we do still have decisions to make with equipment and stuff, right? So, I mean, there aren't as many opportunities, and but yeah, you're right.
I mean, ideally at this stage of the project, if the contingency balance, this could be the fun part of the project where, hey, we've got a balance left. What can we do? You know, we're talking about the owner, the donor opportunities. Maybe that would come out of a contingency instead of needing donors to help us out with that. In this case, we're having to use the contingency to pay for invoices that we should have received many months before, which doesn't allow you to move forward with the decisions you'd want to make because you're kind of hamstrung.
And I do want to point out for the many people viewing, I'm assuming, Andy, you've asked for these bills. You were all over this, right? Like, yeah. Okay. Thank you for our viewing audience.
But yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Andy, in the first paragraph, it says twice, substantially complete. The scope for January 1st, substantially complete. May 8th, proposal 2020, substantially complete except for soil gas sampling. It sounds like we're going to get another bill.
No, there is no other bill. This bill takes care of this work that's already been done and the work that it's going to take to close the project out.
Yeah, the letter's talking about the winter of 2020, 2021. So that's what we're done with.
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to make a motion for not to not to exceed $84,350 to Weston and Sampson for the site cleanup.
Second.
All right. Beth? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu? Sorry, my cat is yelling no in the background. I don't know if you guys hear that.
I agree with your cat. I agree with
Your cat.
Aye. Okay. Lisa?
Aye.
John?
No.
And Julia's aye.
Okay. That's all.
So what else do you have for us?
That's mercifully it for bills. I can go through my clerk's report a little bit. If everybody's read it already, I can just tell you that sort of big picture stuff, you know, finishes are coming along. We've got carpentry going in. We've got ceiling grid is mostly done. We've got painting all over the place that looks really good. We've got ceramic tile that's going into the bathrooms. So all that kind of stuff is happening. The exterior of the building all that paint has been completed. Sunshades are in. I saw some final light fixtures being turned on the other day. So that was pretty exciting to see some real lights in the building. What else, Mark and Ron? What else do you guys see out there? I mean, that's where the site contractors started working again today, which is a big deal.
What about the roof? Like, I'm surprised the roof's not done on the new end.
Yeah. So there's some welding that has to happen. There's some steel plate. We had to work out the cornice detail that happens along that whole that east side had to get figured out. And now we're waiting on getting the welder in there to weld some plates up there. I think the structural engineer is still musing on that one. And then once that's in, then the cornice, the fiberglass cornice will go on, and then the asphalt shingles will happen on that end of the building.
The structural engineer sent information and drawings today.
Oh, good. Okay.
Those have been submitted.
So we should be seeing that happen in the next couple of weeks, Doug. I would think the welder is pretty available, so he can get out there and do his piece, and then we'll follow right behind with the cornice and the shingles. Everything else, there's some other roof trim in a couple of places that still needs to be completed. The mason was just here the other day to do some touch up and to clean some things up. But yeah, most of that is, most of the exterior is really in pretty good shape. We've ordered some, so we've ordered the book sorting equipment, the self-check items, the electric vehicle charging stations. I've been going through specific pricing for appliances and things like that. So we're starting to look at some of that final stuff that ends up happening in the building as well. We've got the storage room in the community rooms has flooring and ceiling in it now. So we have a place to be able to put appliances when we want to pull the trigger on those. But those are pretty short order items. So I'm holding off until the building's a little bit further along. Carpet you'll start to see in the next week or two as well. So that's really going to change the whole building once that happens.
Yeah.
Mark, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, in general, we're very much on the downhill side of things, and we've got a month-ish of construction, and then there's going to be a month of flush out where they just move air through the building for a month or so, and then during that time, Ron and their consulting team will come through and do final reviews of everything. Punch list work will start, training, commissioning of the equipment will be underway, all that mechanical stuff, so that when the building's turned over, everything's operating the way it was intended. And then there's going to be a transition from the construction side to the owners taking over, and which involves the furniture, the equipment that Andy's looking at, the appliances and all that stuff. And then there's a fair amount of work yet to be done on that side of things, but that's the fun stuff. So so we're closer to that than we've ever been, and I don't see anything right now getting in the way.
Right. One of the key things we still need is a delivery and installation dates for the shelving. I know that order just went in recently, but we need to, as soon as we can, we need to get a date for when that shelving is going to be arrived and how long that's going to take to install, because we can't move until we have that shelving in place. But as soon as we know we have a reliable date, I've already talked to the movers just to give them a heads up. So once we have a date for some of that, then we'll be able to get them re-engaged and start looking at how we pull out of the building that we're in and what we have to do to that to put it back into the condition it was before we got there.
Have you heard of any extended lead times because of the whole Suez Canal? Because I've heard that on some furniture already. Things going out to 12 weeks.
I have
furniture. Knoll furniture. They're steel for their files and things like that. Because and also some seat cushion material.
Yeah.
So yeah, my furniture dealer was just telling me today.
We haven't been told of any delays yet. We have not, but if we can jump into the architect's report.
That'd be great.
Thank you. To continue on the topic of furniture, as Andy said, the orders have been going into the manufacturers, which is good. The one thing that helped a lot with the shelving is that Corey got us the shop drawings early. Based on the preliminary layout, and that way we're ahead of the process with the shelving. The orders going in, Ken has reviewed the shop drawings already, rather than putting the order then getting the shop drawings. Ken and I did some site checking. Was it last week or the week before? I lose track of time very easily these days, unfortunately. But Ken and I were on site to do a walkthrough of the exterior of the building for CTA, so that we can get them punch list items for the masons, the painters, whoever on the exterior shell before they finish up their work. So that's done and complete, and it's been in their hands. The hands of our report has been given to CTA, and they're working with it. And while we were there, Ken and I were able to walk through the shelving in the private offices and out on the floor, and make any tweaks to the shop drawings to get those back to Corey. So while we don't have dates yet, it's moving at a good rate. LEED is progressing. The preliminary submission is in progress. We're working with the consultants and the lead consultant to tie up a few loose ends, but that's moving along as well. And aside from that, it's just general CA, responding to requests for information, any submittals, any supplemental instructions, you know, the normal construction process. Ken, did you have anything to add?
No, I think that's a pretty good summary.
Thank you.
John, is there any updates from the Historic District Commission?
I was hoping to follow up from Andy's report, because it sounds like he has something on the lighting that HTC had problems with, and the roof HVAC screening issues. So
yep.
I think Andy will have that information.
Let me reopen my report. Sorry, you're right. That was down at the bottom and I meant to hit that. So yeah, there's sort of three things in front of, three topics of discussion with the HDC right now. One is pretty straightforward. I think the site sign that you'll see from the road has been part of the design from the beginning, but we need to submit that along with some colors. I've done some work on that just to be able to, I took the design drawing and sort of tried to add some appropriate colors to it, and also provide the sign, the colors, the paint colors that have been selected to be able to include that in the submission, the formal submission to the HDC. So that's the easy one. Although, John, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, my comment back to the design team was, I think in general, you guys would prefer to have options rather than just here's what we think we should do. Is that a fair statement?
Or have options and then have an opportunity to actually approve it or not, rather than like the lighting, it's purchased and done, and it's like these bills. It's too late. We can't do anything. We can't say change the lighting. We're not going to do that. But it defeats the whole purpose of even meeting with us if all this is going to be decided and done before we have an opportunity to even discuss it.
Right. No, I
don't have a problem with the lighting. That's not one of my problems.
I know. No,
my problem is the screen, the HVAC. But it's, again, needs to be
right. Let's hit that one in a second. I want to finish up with the sign first. So just before I submit something, should we ask for another? Do you guys want it? Would it be better to see two versions of the same side with different colors, or do you want to see the one that we're recommending? What do you guys? What's the best way to do this for you guys?
It's hard for me to know. I mean, do you have something? To me, it's like if you have something, as soon as you have it, submit it to the committee, so that if people have issues, they can start saying, okay, what about this, or we're not concerned about that.
Okay. Rather
than going way down the path and it's pretty much done. And
yeah, no, we have time on this one.
No recourse.
Right. So I can send this one to the committee informally before I submit the actual application.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we can go around that way a little bit first and get the color piece of this out of the way, and then we can do the formal submission.
So because if people have a concern, then you can redesign or do whatever the issue is. I mean, I don't know that the sign's going to be a big issue. I just don't know.
Right. Okay. So that's easy. So I'll send that off to the commission tomorrow. You guys will see what that looks like, and then we can have a discussion about colors and the design is what's been there for a while. It's what was originally submitted. So, but we can certainly have a discussion about it because there's still time to catch that one before it goes any further.
Okay.
Yeah, the roofs. So the roof screening is another one. I mean, I think I tried to explain before that, you know, when those elevations get drawn, we still don't know what the mechanical systems look like. I still think that we could have done a better job in creating a roofscape that hid those a little bit better. I think the general concern going forward is that I'm just nervous to put anything up there on that roof, period. I just think it's going to be, what's there we don't love, right? The fact that you can see the roof screens, but I'm just concerned about adding insult to injury and putting something that's architecturally inappropriate on top of that building, just to sort of avert our eyes from the HVAC units.
I'll let you share that at the meeting. How's that?
That's fair. That's totally fair. I'm just, you know, I'm just not sure that if I thought that there was something that was gonna, and I've talked to Ron and Ken about this as well. I mean, if I thought there was gonna be something that was in keeping with the architecture, that was gonna provide a full visual screen for those things, I think we'd be all over it. But I'm just not sure that there is. And I'm afraid of making that poor situation bad. But yeah, I can certainly.
I think everybody from the multiple conversations that we've had at the HDC meetings is we understand you cannot completely shield or conceal this. That the thought of several people was that if you have, you know, I'm not sure if it was 4 feet, 6 foot, some kind of either the wrought iron that matches on the front, that your eye is not going to go straight to those huge units, but it will be somewhat shielded by that. It's not going to hide it. It's not going to be a full block, but it's just not going to be so jarring to see just the AC unit. You'll see that little metal fence, and maybe your eye will stop looking. It's just to avert some of the huge impact that has on South Street.
Okay. Well, we'll have that conversation again. I had started some sketches. I had done some stuff, and I'll try to finish some up and throw them past Ken and Ron just to see if they've got any thoughts as well. So yeah. Okay. So I'll bring that. I'll certainly bring that to the, when is the next meeting? Is it this Thursday?
It's the third Thursday, which I believe is maybe next week.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. I'll be ready.
Question for Andy. When you review the exterior sign at the street, will you also be reviewing with the HDC the signage on the building? Because there is planned to be dimensional letters above the book return, and also on the portico over the main entrance. In the center, I believe, is the street address 35.
Yeah, so it would be helpful to have those.
I sent you.
I think I saw a shop drawing of the thing over the main entry. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you the shop drawing for the exterior, the street sign, the sign at the curb.
Yeah.
With the colors indicated.
That.
And a few notes from us. And also the building applied signs. There's only 2 locations.
Right.
At the book return and in the rail above the main entrance from the parking lot.
Yep. Okay.
So if you have any questions, if you need anything, let me know.
I'll gather those up and make sure I get them to the committee this week so they have some time before next week. Okay.
Thanks.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I have not yet understood this, and I apologize that I've waited. But what is the relationship of the HDC? Like, are you able to hold up these decisions, or is it just an advisory to this committee?
Theoretically, yes. That you have to submit your plans to us before you do anything, and that has not necessarily been the case. We try to work things out before things get, while it's still in pencil rather than ink, before you've spent any money, before you've ordered things. That's the goal, so that the goal is to keep things in character of the common. And we realize this is a new building, it's a new addition. but there are ways that you can soften impact. You know, if we'd have known these units were going to go on the building where they are early on, we would have said, we need to have a parapet there. We need something else on the building. So that would have had to been incorporated into the final design of the building. So ideally, we need to be aware at the earliest stages, at the talking stages, at the discussion, at a time when you can really make a change. But yes, theoretically, we could say, no, you can't. You could then sue us, which you have to go to court to do if you don't like the decision, if we say, no, you can't do that. But we do have the ability to, if you're not following the guidelines that are set forth, we can say, no, you can't do that. You know, we try to work with everybody. Like the Anderson building, he ripped off his slate roof before we had a chance to say, no, you can't do that. But then we worked with them after the fact to put on brackets that had been lost over time. So, you know, we always try to make the best out of a bad situation. You know, we realize that it's not a museum, realize that it's a living, breathing part of the community. It's not meant to be a Sturbridge Village where we really feel like you've gone back 150, 200 years. But we try to make sure that there aren't really glaring mistakes that are made that can't be undone or can't be undone inexpensively. So we certainly want to be there for advice for people, but we also have the rules that are supposed to be followed in terms of design review.
Thank you.
Long answer to your short question.
All right.
All right. Ron, do we think there's anything else to add for our interior design subcommittee? Furniture's been ordered.
Yep.
Do we have to have further discussion on some interior signage or on the donor signage maybe?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. The interior signage submittal for the wall plaques, that was reviewed and sent back to the subcontractor. You know, it's basically what was the room names and numbers. That's all taken care of. The interior hanging signage, I need to review with Beth. I didn't get a chance to call you on Friday. I got tied up. But we have the submittal, so I just need to work out the verbiage with Beth and make sure we're okay with the locations of where they're suspended from. The applied dimensional letters inside the building, for example, at the main program room, that type of signage is going to be tied in with donors. So while we can approve fonts and colors at this point, we don't know what the wording will be because we don't know who the donors are yet. So that's something that it's not in the critical path to getting a certificate of occupancy. That signage has been addressed and taken care of. This is really just additional donor signage that as the information becomes available, we can put a package together. The one thing we would need to reconsider for the donor plaque was that we had talked about having an artist do a design for that, and that fell through because of a concern of conflict of interest for the artist who works for the library being paid additionally to do artwork for the library. So that brings us back to, do we want to move forward with the one of the original ideas, which was a glass panel with surface applied vinyl lettering on the back of the glass panel. It allows for easy changes. It allows for additional donors as they come down in years, a year's in advance of now. That is something that's also not on critical path. It's in the project, so it's not an extra. it's this question of, do we want to move forward with that type of sign? And if so, finding a local vendor. The advantage of finding a local vendor for that is that it's somebody similar to the other donor signage, that as donations are made in the future, it's a local vendor. You call them up and say, hey, we need to add this name to, or these names to the sign. It's an easy fix. It's an easy add-on.
Right. So maybe the interiors group needs to meet again to talk about.
Yeah, I can
talk about the signage.
We've talked about possible locations for a glass plaque sign. Mm-hmm. So we can review that. We can, and I've shown examples. I can bring those examples up again of other similar signs. So I can schedule a meeting with a Zoom meeting with the design subcommittee. I can do it this week or next.
I know that Dana and I, with the capital campaign, we've been looking at options for, you know, finding another local artist. We just haven't had any success yet.
Okay. I think that would be really interesting and a nice attribute for the library if it's a piece of art rather than the a typical glass panel.
Yeah, I just don't want our timing to mess up the timing that is required for the project, right? I mean, if we can't find somebody, then we're gonna have to go to plan B.
Yeah, I mean,
or your plan A, I guess.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, there's, this is not part of the critical path to getting your certificate of occupancy, so you have some leeway.
Okay.
Maybe if we could meet next week.
What's a good night, since we have most of the people here? I'm available.
Why don't we ask Beth? Because well, Zoom, so it doesn't matter. But
that's right, Beth.
See what. Can you sign language? What day of the week?
Monday. Yay or nay?
Monday.
Give me a this or this. Monday is a yes.
Monday, I have an appointment at 5:30.
Tuesday, Beth, is a yes. Yeah. What about Doug?
Yeah, Tuesday works. Yep.
That works for me as well. Oh, I see there's a chat now.
Okay. Tax day is on Thursday, so.
I've got another meeting Tuesday night. I don't know that, you necessarily need me to be there to do that, but I'd like to be if I can.
What about
Tuesday night, the only night next week that I'm at a conflict.
Wait, what was that one? Was that for Wednesday night is bad? Thursday night?
Wednesday.
Bad.
I can't do Thursday.
Okay.
So do we stay with Tuesday?
We're doing 6, right?
6 p.m. Yeah.
I can
unless it's easier for people to meet earlier. I'm flexible, so.
What about Julie? Is earlier okay or not?
I'm trying to think if I have a
like Tuesday or Wednesday at 5:30. Does that help? Mark? Tuesday's not good for Mark. Right?
Tuesday's not good. Wednesday, anytime.
Wednesday's not good for Beth.
No, right.
I can do earlier on Monday or Tuesday. Early is okay. Need to be done by 7. For what day? What day was that for?
Wednesday.
For Wednesday. If
Wednesday.
we do Wednesday at 4 or 5 o'clock, is that what you're saying? 5 o'clock? Oh, because we won't need 2 hours.
No. So Wednesday, the 14th.
At 5 o'clock?
5 p.m.
I hate to do, our meeting keeps on, this is a long one, but what about the good news we were going to have? Andy?
I need the time. What time?
We'll get there. No, let's play out.
No, I want to go back to good news. Because I feel like because the next thing after this is just you know, wrapping it up. So
it's 5:30 Wednesday the 14th.
oh, I'm sorry. 5:30 on Wednesday
5:30.
Is that good?
is okay.
5:30. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 5:30 Wednesday the 14th.
Okay. Yeah. Send out an invite and then we'll
Typing it
Zoom.
as we talk.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right. So as Prabhu noticed, right, our delta between our projected cost and our total approved borrowing is only $77,000 right now. And we're still not done buying furniture or IT stuff and computers and all that. So, but we have been talking with Doug and with Dana about funding sources coming from elsewhere and what kind of contributions we might be seeing. And now Doug's gonna leave? What? Oh no, here he is.
I know, just a dog barking. Yeah, I'm out of here.
But you said, so I'll turn it over to you, Doug, and you can sort of walk people through what we've been talking about.
Yeah, so we met with Dana, the other capital campaign person, and Andy to discuss the different funding opportunities and donor opportunities, and that includes the monies from the library. Well, I should start off saying none of this is set in stone yet. Nothing's been like finally approved, and the goal for any of these monies is not really to pay for things that were out of budget, right? Where the goal is to identify things that the donors want to contribute to, whether it's furniture or landscaping, of course. So we met with Andy last week. Yeah, because it is Monday, last week, and talked about two pools of money. One is the Grafton, the monies that the trustees are in charge of, and they've committed $125,000 to the project. And then the monies that the capital campaign is raising, of course. And so we've talked about moving monies over very short term, probably within the next week or two. And that I think the initial movement will be close to 200 grand, if not a little bit more than that. And of course, we have a lot of other monies. A lot of them are in consideration for these out of scope landscaping projects that Andy talked about earlier. But there's other opportunities to look for the funding. So yeah, I think the good news is, you know, at least short term, there's probably $200,000, $225,000, that's going to get added into the project account.
Right. So that's yes. That was a time when we all applaud. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's awesome news, because that's direct project stuff. That's not, you know, additional landscaping costs. So that's to your earlier point. That's where I need to go into my my cost report and find the appropriate place to insert that information so that we can start to track that. And I'm going to look at the same thing for the additional landscape scope and maybe keep that off to the side, because that's really where it is. It's not really part of the main. Well, it is part of the main project, but so I have to figure out how I'm going to keep some of this stuff separate so that we can see where money is coming in from and then where it's being applied to. So I want to make sure that we're really clear about how all that stuff goes. But yeah, we've got some very good news in terms of where the funding is coming from and how much. So it's great. Amazing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doug and Dana.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
so
the town, not us.
So Doug, just get someone to buy those bears that I sent.
I saw those bears, yes.
Do you like it, Beth? Ron, it was a Vitra reclining bear. You have to look on the Vitra site. It's so cool. So anyways, I think it would be perfect. But I don't want to add it onto the furniture budget. So that's why I asked Doug.
So that's basically ending on a high note. So I'm gonna, when Doug and I have confirmed what the amount's gonna be, I'll update my costs report and I'll send that around as soon as I have it updated. I'm not gonna wait for another month. I'll send that around so everybody can see it and see where we are. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for the trustees piece, the next trustee meeting is not until the end of the month. So at least that piece wouldn't get approved before the end of the month.
Yep.
All right. Is there
Hey,
anything?
one thing?
Yeah.
So the one meeting you chair, it becomes a 2.5 hour meeting. It's like a planning board meeting. So
I know. And I don't like doing this at all. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add?
I had a quick question for Andy. The spreadsheet that you're working on, does it include the AV equipment, like any of that stuff?
It does.
It does. Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, the majority of the AV equipment is well, all the AV equipment really is part of the project. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And that's all bought out at this point?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Our next meeting is?
Our next meetings are May 3rd. Okay. Wow. And June 7th.
Oh my gosh. Okay. The day before substantial completion. All right.
So I'm going to make a motion. This is super fun. Like this is a fun one.
Just for the fun of it.
Just for the fun of it, I am going to make a motion that we adjourn at 8:15 p.m.
Second.
Beth? No? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John? And Julie? Aye. All right. Thank you all.